Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're zooming in on what is literally the beating heart of your company's revenue engine, your customer relationship management system, or CRM. We're going to completely demystify exactly what a small business actually needs from its CRM to drive real, tangible growth in 2026. So let's just dive right in, shall we?
Now, if you ask a small sales team how they genuinely feel about their current CRM, well, you're probably going to get a collective groan or maybe even a look of sheer panic, right? So why do small teams hate their CRM so much? Usually it's simply because they're forced into these bloated enterprise systems. We're talking software built to handle hundreds of users, endless departments, and massive global pipelines. And that creates a ton of friction for a lean, targeted team of, say, 5 to 50 people. These simple, everyday tasks you actually need to do, like logging a quick call or setting a follow-up, they just get completely buried under this avalanche of endless menus and unnecessary tabs.
And honestly, this right here brilliantly illustrates the cost of getting it wrong and the massive reward of getting it right. According to Salesforce's State of CRM report, businesses that implement CRM systems tailored to their specific, everyday workflows, they see up to a 29% improvement in sales productivity. That is a huge leap. And what's really fascinating is that this number climbs even higher when the CRM is purpose-built for the team rather than just heavily configured from some generic bloated template.
Okay, moving into part 1, the trap of complexity. We're looking at enterprise systems versus small business reality.
Which brings us to part 2, the core 4. These are the absolute must-have features that prevent revenue leaks.
So to avoid that trap of complexity we just talked about, the one where shoving a 50-person team into a 500-person platform just results in your reps abandoning the system and hiding all their data in secret spreadsheets, you have to focus on exactly what you need. And in 2026, buyers are super informed and sales cycles are highly competitive. So first up in our core 4 is contact management. This is your absolute foundation. It's for storing data, tracking history, and managing all your communications. But the key word here is quickly. Because if your sales rep has to click through 4 different screens just to find the last email they sent to a prospect, the system is already failing you. Simplicity is absolutely critical here, along with strict duplicate detection and merge rules. Because let's be real, when your team starts importing leads from multiple different sources, that messy data compounds incredibly fast.
All right, feature number 2, the sales pipeline. What we're looking for here is a drag-and-drop board that matches your actual sales process. Not some generic out-of-the-box template, but a setup that reflects your reality, the exact way your specific business works. Keep in mind, small businesses rarely lose deals because of a bad product or a slight price difference. They lose deals because of follow-up gaps. It's really that simple. So having custom stages that perfectly mirror your actual workflow and getting deal aging alerts when a prospect has just been sitting in one stage way too long, those are absolutely vital to plugging those revenue gaps.
Next up is task automation. And let's be super clear about this. Automation, in this specific context, absolutely does not mean complex, multi-touch drip campaigns. Not at all. It's really just about putting basic rules in place to prevent leads from going cold. For instance, you could have it automatically create a follow-up task the second a deal moves to a specific stage. Or maybe send a rep a quick reminder email when no activity has been logged on an account for 7 days. These basic nudges, they can meaningfully and quickly change your close rate.
And the 4th core feature is reporting. Look, let's be totally honest, a CRM without solid reporting is really just a glorified digital address book. You need to know what's actually working. A good dashboard has to clearly surface these core metrics: your lead conversion rate by source, your average deal value, your overall sales cycle length, and your rep level activity. And the absolute most crucial point here is that your system needs to display these metrics automatically. You shouldn't have to go out and hire a data analyst just to configure a basic sales report. Finally, tying this whole thing together, third-party integrations. Remember, your CRM does not live in isolation. It needs clean, seamless connections to your email platform, your accounting software, and your calendars. If your CRM can't integrate cleanly with the tools your team is already using every single day, well, they're going to be stuck doing manual data entry. And let me tell you, manual data entry destroys user adoption faster than anything else, which completely defeats the entire purpose of having the system. All right, moving on to part 3, the crossroads. It's time to look at custom versus off-the-shelf. So this is the exact point where you have to decide whether to buy a pre-packaged, generic system or build a tailored one. Let's walk through this comparison together. Now, off-the-shelf options are super fast to set up, usually taking just days to weeks, and they run on a predictable recurring subscription. However, the feature fit is going to be generic, meaning you might end up needing some pretty frustrating workarounds, and your scalability is entirely limited by that vendor's roadmap. On the flip side, a custom CRM, it definitely takes longer, weeks to months usually, and it involves a one-time build cost plus ongoing maintenance. But look at the massive benefits here. It's built exactly around your specific workflow. It scales entirely on your terms. It allows for custom API integrations, and crucially, you own all the data. For businesses with really straightforward needs, off-the-shelf works totally fine at the start. But as your team grows, the gaps in a generic platform are inevitably going to start showing up in lost time and lost deals. Now, if you are leaning towards a custom build, let's just lay out the straight, no-nonsense facts regarding the investment. The cost of a custom CRM typically ranges from $15,000 to $80,000, and it generally takes about 10 to 16 weeks to build a highly focused minimum viable product, or MVP. A basic system with those core features we talked about sits down at the lower end, while adding custom automation, advanced reporting, and tricky multi-system integrations pushes it toward that higher end. And don't forget, you also need to factor in about 15 to 20% of that initial build cost for your annual maintenance. This brings us to part 4, the operational layer. Connecting your CRM with an ERP. As growing businesses evolve, sales data inevitably starts bumping into harsh operational realities, things like inventory levels and invoicing. On the left side here, your CRM is strictly customer-facing, right? It handles your leads, deals, communication, and relationships. On the right side, your ERP, or Enterprise Resource Planning System, is entirely operational. It's handling your inventory, procurement, finance, and fulfillment. But when you integrate these two systems, that's when the magic happens. Suddenly, your sales team can see real-time inventory levels before they go promising a delivery timeline to a VIP client. Your finance team can pull revenue data that perfectly lines up with what the sales guys are reporting. That kind of seamless alignment is a massive competitive advantage, even for a small business. Which leads perfectly into part 5, the blueprint for success. This is how you build your custom CRM successfully. Because getting a tailored CRM built isn't just about handing over a check to a developer and waiting around. There are some major pitfalls you need to dodge. First up is friction point 1, scope creep during development. It is so incredibly tempting to start adding feature requests mid-build. You start with a nice focused CRM, and suddenly you're asking the developer to cram in a project management module, a customer portal, and a whole support ticketing system. Please don't do this. It severely inflates your cost and massively delays your launch. You absolutely must have the strict discipline to launch your focused MVP first and strategically layer those extra features in later on. Moving on to friction point 2, user adoption. Look, remember, a CRM only works if your team actually logs in and uses the thing. If the user interface is clunky, or if entering data feels like this agonizing daily chore, your sales reps are going to immediately revert back to those trusty secret spreadsheets we talked about earlier. Investing the time and budget into a really clean, intuitive user experience during the build phase isn't just a nice-to-have, it's not optional. It is literally the single biggest factor that determines whether the system actually gets used. And that brings us to friction point 3, choosing the right development partner. Honestly, this is arguably your most consequential decision. But keep in mind, you don't always have to build from absolute scratch. Leveraging strong open-source foundations like Sugar CRM, or even hiring developers to extend an ecosystem you already heavily use, something like Microsoft Dynamics, gives you a working core right out of the gate. Your developers can just customize around it rather than building every single module from absolute zero. And that approach, it can significantly slash your time to launch. So, before you write a single specification or even speak to a development firm, there are 3 highly practical steps you've got to consider. First, map your current sales process out on paper. Literally, write it down. Document every single stage, handoff, and tool you use. Developers simply cannot build what they don't deeply understand. Second, locate your current data and explicitly plan for how you're going to migrate it. I'm telling you, this step is consistently underestimated in both effort and cost. And third, plan for growth. These 3 steps form your absolute foundational roadmap. And really, that perfectly tees up the core philosophy of this entire explainer. Build for where your business will be in 2 years, not where it is today. Think about it. The CRM that fits perfectly right this very minute might completely break down when you add a second sales team, launch a brand new product line, or open a new partner channel next year. You always have to design with the future in mind. So as we wrap things up today, I want to leave you with a bit of a provocative question to help evaluate your current setup. Is your system actively closing deals or is it losing them?
A CRM that perfectly fits how your team actually sells is hands down one of the very best investments you can make for 2026 growth. But if your current platform is just a glorified digital address book filled to the brim with messy data, then it is absolutely time to take action. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this helps you build a system that truly drives your business forward.